You can't see John. Gunther's time is now. Let's break it down next. Everybody else has their opinion on this match, so let's get to this special edition of Stop the 10 Count. That's the last time is now with John Cena's final match. So let's get to it and start the 10 count with the match itself. Because as I said, with Dom's match at Survivor Series, the goal is to give the best match that makes sense for a given opponent. And did we get that here? Yeah, I guess we did, as we got to see Gunther be flat out nasty, relentlessly attacking Cena throughout with all of his signature moves, including a heavy dose of chops early on, and of course we saw several powerbombs, and yeah, we got to see the sleeper be the end of the John Cena era. But was this good or was this bad? Before we get to that answer, let's do some pros and cons of this match, and we'll start with the bad and the con. So first, even though this match made sense for Gunther, was it truly just another Gunther match? And what do I mean by a Gunther match? I'd say a typical Gunther match feels like he's in control and mercilessly destroying his opponent for a good 90% of it, with a couple flurries of offense by the good guy, but it never really seems like Gunther's going to lose. And by the end of it, you're just like, can this please just end already? And I always personally think of the Raw after the Royal Rumble in January of 2024 when Gunther took on Kofi Kingston, as Kofi was clearly not going to win that match, but instead of being in and out in 10 minutes or so, they had to drag it on through 2 commercial breaks, with Kingston getting his one big chance, but of course in the end Gunther still easily put Kofi away. And if there's one thing about a Gunther match, it's that it's just way too long, as he drags out the agony of the opponent and plays with his food, if you will, so long that it just becomes irritating. Well, I'd also say this leads to our next point, because did you want to see us go to sleep by the end of that match? I mean, we had a 5-minute sleeper fest. That is a good way for all of us to catch some Z's watching it on the TV. Is there any less exciting way for your self-proclaimed GOAT to end his career? Yeah, just to have his life slowly sucked out of him for 5 long minutes until he taps out. We will have a pro on that later, but the con is the sequencing here, just to go with this over and over again for, again, 5 whole minutes. Yeah, Cena got out of the sleeper briefly a few times and landed an AA near the end to give us all a little bit of false hope, only for Gunther to very quickly recover and get right back into it. But just to spread out the sleepers more throughout the match would have made a lot more sense, so that when he finally locked one in for the 5th time throughout the match at the end, it would have been better than for waiting 5 full minutes at the end. And if you're a Cena critic, well, you kinda got proven right here, because the dude pretty much only did those 5 moves of doom the entire match. I was pretty stunned that he immediately went into those shoulder blocks as basically his first offensive move 3+ minutes into the match. And then of course he kept going back to that well the whole way throughout. And he even had an STF and an exchange of blows, and he smartly tried this sleeper like Jay did at WrestleMania. But really, other than his one leg drop off the top rope, it was pretty much just the 5 moves of doom. So Cena called for the fans to join him in one final "You Can't See Me" about 16 minutes into the match. And 2 things here. Number 1, it didn't work. Gunther immediately booted him to start a flurry with a German and a powerbomb, so couldn't we at least have gotten one last 5-knuckle shuffle to connect? And number 2, it was a bit too ominous of a sign that he was already signaling that it was his final 5-knuckle shuffle. So if he were going to win this match, wouldn't you expect a 5-knuckle shuffle and then the AA to end it? Oh well, regardless, that's about all for the cons. Let's go to the pros. And number 1, there was no cheating here. That might just be a low bar, right? I mean, Dom had to get everyone involved to beat Cena, and Gunther was attacking 2 different pairs of the MFT's jewels in his semifinal match in the tournament, but we got nothing of the sort here, because if Gunther were to win, he had to win this one completely cleanly, with no outside interference, no shenanigans, just a tap out, and that is what we got, so well done there. Number 2, we were feeling the love, because if there's one thing with Cena, it always feels like a genuine connection with his fans for the love of all of them. And he had a couple nice interactions during the match here with the fans to make it feel special. So despite it being a missed opportunity of him connecting on that 5-knuckle shuffle, we at least got that feeling so that the fans were right to give the love back to him during this match. And I really like the AAs in this match. We did get an AA through the announce table and also an Avalanche AA. And in total, we had 4 different AAs, including one in that final sequence when he was trying desperately to get out of that sleeper. But ultimately, it didn't work because Gunther's attitude has clearly not been adjusted to be any better than it was before the match, and probably even worse. So getting to see Cena hit both of the special AAs was really great to see one last time. And I have to say, the fans' reactions were priceless at the end of the match. I have to admit, this was my favorite part of the whole thing. I'm not sure I can remember laughing as much as I did in the last few years during a WWE show than at the end of this match, with WWE showing all the stunned faces in the crowd. And they were completely befuddled at how Cena could lose in this final match. Yeah, I immediately thought of The Undertaker losing his streak at WrestleMania, which in reality was way more stunning than this one was, as Taker was not close to being done at that time. But that didn't mean anything to all of these fans who had come to see Cena ride off into the sunset with a win. Likewise, I was completely humored with everyone booing Triple H as he went on out to the ring. No, it was not a good year of creative for Triple H or the rest of the booking team, so I'm glad that the fans let him know that. Even though, I have to admit, this was not one of those bad decisions, because I'm sure Cena made the call to be the one to go out this way. So, like it or not, Cena stuck to tradition here to get the next guy to go over. And speaking of, as painful as those 5 minutes were, the final moment of Cena tapping out was the right move here, because when one of your catchphrases is never give up, and you've never tapped out in your entire career, you kind of have to give up in your retirement match to have the biggest impact. So if Gunther had just powerbombed Cena 5 times in a row to win, it still would have been good and a win for Gunther, but it wouldn't have had quite the impact that we got with this tap out. And it will continue to be good for Gunther going forward due to that tap out. And as for Cena smiling while he was tapping out, I guess I don't mind here. I'm sure Cena had a life lesson in there, as he had a meaning behind this. I'm sure, I don't want to put words into his mouth, but I'm sure it was good for him, so I don't have any complaints about that particular move. Now, most of all, the biggest pro is that it worked. Gunther got the dirty, dumb-like reaction of the heavy boos on Raw, and had this not been Hershey, Pennsylvania, bless their hearts and bless their chocolate, it probably would have been so bad that Gunther wouldn't have gotten off a single word out of his mouth here. And that would have been much like Roman Reigns on the Raw after Mania, when we thought that he had retired Taker. Of course, Taker had several more matches after that, but at the time, we thought that was it. I did love Gunther going back for more gloating and more boos on Raw after he had stopped talking the first time and had, dropped the mic, but I look forward to a lot more boos and continuing to see that going forward. So I don't usually give out grades in matches, but I do give out grades from time to time. But unlike the doc, I just don't like doing it for each match. So I do feel like I need to do that here. And like I said, I would have liked some more variety out of Cena during this match. And I definitely wouldn't have gone for 5 straight minutes of those sleepers. And I also think they could have come up with something a bit better for Cena's final match, but in the end it still accomplished its ultimate goal of setting up Gunther as a monster heel going forward. So for that, I am going to go above a C, but just barely, and I'll give it a B-. So what's next? You would think it would be crazy for WWE not to capitalize on this win for Gunther, but I'm not sure that they will, because it seems like Rhodes and Reigns and Punk and Breakker are written in ink as the WrestleMania main events, but don't you have to change your plans after this? I've already said that WWE should slow down the Breakker train until after Mania for him to get his world title win. And even though I went with that in my WrestleMania 42 predictions after Survivor Series, it's simply not what I would do. And more than ever, don't we have to get a Punk Gunther rematch at WrestleMania? It's the right thing for you to do now, WWE, so I think that you better just go ahead and take it, or you just might squander this one big final opportunity to make Gunther the biggest bad guy in the business. Wait a minute, on John Cena's final match, did I actually finally beat the 10 count and get a win? Well, I guess I will take it. But even though Gunther is a new monster heel after this win, I'm going to be cheering for my shining baby faces in the women's volleyball Final Four, as my Pitt Panthers are now the five-time in a row Final Four participants, but they still haven't even won a single match in the semifinal round, so they will just have to keep searching for their first championship. And with the reigning, defending Player of the Year in Olivia Babcock leading the charge, this will finally be the year that they bring home a championship to Pittsburgh. So, good luck ladies, and as always, H2P. But speaking of 5 times, I picked each PLE match perfectly 5 times since BackLash going into Saturday night's main event, so be sure to go right on over here to see if I made it 6 times by picking Gunther over Cena. But until next time, I am the SportsZu, and this has been Stop the 10 Count.